We're in the asking questions phase, and we're in part two of the hard process. The hard process is how we at 277 look at managing a group dynamic for high performance. So the asking questions phase. In part one, we looked at the characteristics and behaviours that will be on display within your group during this phase. A lot of them would have sounded familiar, and I've had messages and contact from people already to say, absolutely, it resonates. Some have shared some great ideas on how they've seen success, but also benefited from some of the ideas that you guys are about to hear on part two of part two. So the first thing that we suggest, and it's something that I've experienced firsthand many times, is we need to ask for more Fs. So when people are effing and blinding because they're frustrated and angry, this is the time to ask for more feedback. We ask for more Fs. We want to know what is going on. Where are the problems coming from? What are the frustrations? All this feedback is really important so that we can get it right first time and keep moving forwards as a group. Yes, it's an inconvenient whenever you have to step out of the original plan to do what might seem like unnecessary work if you feel like you've covered all of this early on in the beginning part of your group dynamic process. Leadership's hard, and that's why you've been given the task to lead this team. Get more feedback. It might increase your workload in the moment, but over long term, it will reduce your workload. It's one of those things that people really need to see it to believe it, but if you attack these things head on and just get every bit of feedback out of the individual, or if you feel it's appropriate, bring the group together, even if you've got two conflicting opinions that are causing a problem, getting them together rather than two separate meetings can actually be more time efficient. But as a leader, you must have experience in that already, else you wouldn't be where you are. So use that experience, good, bad, or indifferent, to make the right decision in that situation. The bigger the group, the more chances it goes off in the wrong direction, and the harder it is to manage time-wise. But don't be scared to approach these situations and get feedback in a group. But be aware, like we talked about in the first stage of this hard process, some people do hide within and do not share their feelings as easily as others do. The exciting thing is that problems create solutions. And if we're on the ball and we are very good at recording and logging any changes to processes that can make us better, you will find that as these problems come up, you are finding solutions that make you stronger and stronger and stronger every single time it happens. That's a great thing for the long-term business. If you're on a short-term project and you're leading something that's got a really short start and finish line, then it's not so great. Maybe you need to put more work in at the front end. But if this is a long-term project for you and you're leading a team into the future and to heights that they've never been to, problems create solutions and solutions create growth. So it's not a bad thing. Embrace it. It's really hard for me to choose one of these four in the hard process that is most important, because they all contribute to the outcomes that we're trying to get to and a really successful team and actually creating future leaders, which should be our goal as leaders. But if I'm going to pick one right now, I'm going to say that this asking questions phase is the key, because it's the one that you'll fall in and out of most often, even when you're at the end game where you've got a really sustainable, high-performing team. If there's one area you're going to fall back into, it will be this one, because group dynamics change, people come and go, processes come and go. So in this asking questions phase, I believe this is one of the most important points. Normalize it. At every opportunity, remind your team that at some point, you will fall into this asking question phase. Now, depending where you've done this training in the past or wherever you've picked up your information previously around this dynamic change, you might have heard it as the dissatisfaction stage, you may have heard of it as the storming phase. I believe that both of those words can create a perception just by the words alone that gets you off on the wrong foot. I believe that both of those terms involve asking a lot of questions, and we've chosen to use asking questions as our way of explaining this phase, the second phase. So if you let your team know that you will fall into this phase even when you've gone through it, there's no surprises and there's no sort of drop in motivation as such, because you can quickly remind people, we knew this was coming, let's sit down and have a chat about it, and let's get back to where we were when we were performing. When you have these conversations with your team, and you're leading from the front. It's so important that you give them opportunities to recognize they've got a strong leader. And a great way to add to that is to show them how you go about it. Tell them what it is that you're going to do as the leader, what they're going to do as a group, and you're part of that collective, and individually what their tasks are. Go away and do it, and make sure that you recognize them doing it along the way. And that's yourself as well. Pat yourself on the back. We don't do that enough as leaders, and sometimes we don't have someone close to us who's leading us that will do that for us. So pat yourself on the back as well every time you do something you said you were going to do. But once you've done it, tell them you were going to do it, and tell them that you've done it. So tell them, do it, and tell them again what you've done. Celebrate that success. Remind them what you told them, celebrate them doing it, and then celebrate as a group that you've done it, and tell them that you told them you were going to do it, so you're leading from the front and you're doing what you said you would do. It will grow your emotional bank account with your team, and when you fall back into this asking questions stage in the future, you will get back out of it quicker because there's been some success to reflect on. Trust is a must if we are going to get to the next stage and stay there for as long as possible. Trust can be built by doing what we said just now. If you tell them what we're going to be doing, us being a collective, and individually what each responsibility involves, we do that together and we recognize each other along the way, and then we tell each other what we've done and it's exactly what we said we were going to do, maybe with some tweaks as we learned along the way, which is a great message as well. That will build trust, and that trust is a must. When you've got that trust, they will believe you that it's not a crisis when you fall back into the asking questions phase as a team, and they will believe you when you say you're going to come out of it. Keep leading, keep working on yourself, make sure your team know that you're working on yourself. It gives a great message and it encourages them to do the same. We're going to move on to part 3 of the hard process. That's the R in the hard process. And this is where we look at results. We've been through stages 1 and 2, and we're now achieving some fantastic results. This can change the characteristics and the dynamics of our team as a collective and as individuals, and we need to be ready for that. The aim is that we stay there long enough for the team to move on to the next stage. But right now, the focus is on not letting it drop back too quickly into the asking questions phase. So see you in part 3.